Hello and welcome. So this is going to be attempt number 2 at attempting to record some of these vlogs about the movies I've been watching this year for Halloween. Yesterday I recorded 4 of them, and the last 3 are going to be life-altering. It'll blow your mind. You'll change the way you think, and you bring about world peace. And I can say that because you will never see any of those last 3 videos. And the reason for that is, after I recorded the first one, I had to get up and take care of something, and I thought to myself, better save the battery, and I turned off the camera. And in my ADHD-addled brain, when I came back, I forgot to turn the camera back on because minor details that are very important are, of course, the arch enemy of the ADHD-addled mind. And so I just kept hitting the record button, which I cannot really see from where I'm sitting because I'm using a still camera to record these. So I would hit the button from pretty much this position here and assume that the camera was recording, which it was not. It took me 3 of these vlogs before I realized I had a problem. So, the next movie I watched was Fear from 1917. It is a German film. I really liked it. I love these German silent films. They're a lot like watching a ballet. It's all about, because you don't have dialogue to kind of go through the story with. You have to very much get it through impressions. Hence the term German Expressionism. Although that also had a lot to do with the use of shadow and things like that. But if you watch any of these old silent films, and silent's a bit of a misnomer because they would have had a musical score that would have accompanied the film. You basically follow the story through the emotions of watching people's performances, the music that's used, the expressions people make. Like I said, it's a lot like watching a ballet like the Nutcracker, where you don't have dialogue, but if you pay attention and you can follow along and understand exactly what's going on. It's very different from the way we make movies now. Quite understandably, because now we have sound, we have the ability to record sound, but you kind of lose some of that like emotional artisticness sometimes by being able to just say dialogue. So I love these old silent movies, and it's a shame so many of them are lost. And the ones we do have, like this one here, are not always in the best quality. There's like 5 silent horror films that everybody knows. Waxwork, Nosferatu, The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, The Phantom Carriage, The Hunchback of Notre Dame, and probably a few others, The Student of Prague, but those are the ones that you can get like the really nice Blu-rays with the really nice restoration with all the color tinting back in, because these films were not originally black and white. A lot of them, they actually work in color, but it was like the entire frame would be tinted, and that tinting would also help to convey the emotion of what's going on, or tell you like the time of day the scene was taking place in, or something like that. And they were always tinted things like green or blue or amber or red. And once again, this would help you to understand what's going on, or to understand, this scene takes place at night, and then this scene takes place during the day. Wonderful. I love these old silent films. This particular silent film stars Conrad Viedt in a very small role. He's not really in a lot of the movie. He would in a couple of years, his most well-known role, he would be playing Caesar in Captain of Dr. Caligari. But in this film, and this is one of two things that I will tell you are going to be a bit of a detraction from the movie. He plays an Indian man. Conrad Veidt was a German man, presumably a white man. So obviously he was in brownface, or what I would assume would be brownface, because this copy is black and white. So that is an issue. But the plot of it is that there's this rich German aristocrat, and he's traveling the world buying up art, and he hears about this beautiful, miraculous statue of Buddha hidden away in this isolated monastery that, like, if you see it, it will heal you of all that of everything that's wrong with you, and does all kinds of other miraculous stuff. And he's like, you know what? I want this statue. When he sees it, he's like, oh, this thing is so beautiful. I have to have it. So he does the thing that was so in vogue at the time, with if you were a white European, which was to go to India and steal their stuff. And so he takes it back home, and he's immediately afraid that, around every corner is Buddhist assassins who are going to kill him and take the statue back, because, that's the thing that Buddhism believes, is not in karma and reincarnate, but in pure revenge. I'm fairly certain that is not actually a thing. I'm not Buddhist, and I don't really know any Buddhists, but I'm fairly certain that none of that is in any Buddhist text. But anyway, so eventually Conrad Veidt shows up at his door, and you would think he would be saying, give me back the statue, but instead he says, in 7 years, you're going to live for 7 years, and you're going to live the high life, essentially. You're going to, have all kinds of crazy parties and all these things, but in 7 years, your beloved is going to kill you. And at this point, I would be like, you know what, dude, here's your statue back. I took this thing, but, like, I've been afraid of, like, people trying to kill me ever since. Here's your statue back, But the guy's kind of an idiot, so he's like, oh, well, in 7 years I'm going to die, so I guess that means I won't die of anything in between, so I'm just going to do exactly what you say, and I'm just going to have lots of parties and gamble lots of money away, and have lots of, relations with women. And so he does that until he gets bored of that, because, too much of a good thing, eventually you get bored of it. So then he goes and decides, you know what? Now I'm going to devote my life to becoming infamous. And so he studies and studies and figures out a cure for famine. And then he decides at the last minute, after he's invited all these people and they've been reading all his papers and stuff on this, that he's going to destroy it rather than share it with the world. That would actually succeed in making you infamous. I mean, if you could in a provable way create a cure for famine and then just destroy it in front of everyone without giving them the secret, that would actually make you infamous. So he technically succeeds, but, he's a dick. And then he decides, and this is, once again, going back to he's kind of stupid. You know what? Well, now that I have partied up for these years and I have become infamous, but that none of these things could really satisfy me. So what I'm now going to do is fall in love. I'm going to settle down with a woman and fall in love. Which you would think would be an issue for him, since he was told specifically that at the end of 7 years your beloved is going to kill you. And this is exactly what he does. He meets a nice lady, he falls in love, they get married. Everything seems to be fine until it gets close to that 7 years, and he's suddenly thinking, oh my God, you're going to kill me. And he's distrustful of everyone at this point. He accuses his butler of trying to poison his tea. His wife, he comes upon her with a knife at one point, and he says, oh, you're trying to stab me. And he finally decides the best thing to do is to get rid of this Buddhist statue. And rather than give it back to the Indians that he took it from, he's like, you know what I should do? I should throw this thing in the lake. Which he does. And then he goes back into his study where it would be on display before. He threw it in the lake, and miraculously it's back. And this drives him insane. And so he goes out into his garden and he kills himself, because it turns out that the person he loved the most, his beloved, was himself. Then there's this really cool double exposure shot where Conrad Viedt comes back to the guy's house, and he kind of sits down and he astral projects his essence, his spirit, into the guy's house, and you see him walking through the house and doors are opening, very ghosty, and he goes into the guy's study and he takes the statue and he walks off with it, and that's the end of the movie. A lot of these horror films, I don't remember if I said this before, and I have no way of editing this, and I have to be quick about this because my camera will shut off in about 10 minutes time if I don't do anything. A lot... ADHD brain, forget tangents, just gone. I do recommend this movie. It does have some problematic elements, but if you go with the worst of the worst, a film like Birth of a Nation, which is just hate-mongering and just horrible, versus a film like this, which has some problematic elements that should not have happened, but ultimately is still a good story, and that they could have, if they thought about it at the time, taken out and still had the story. This is part of that latter one. But definitely, if